In the winter of 1347, roughly 25 million peasants across medieval Europe woke up each morning not knowing if they would survive the day. They faced bone-cracking cold, starvation, disease, and the constant threat of freezing to death in their sleep. Winter was not a season to be endured. It was a war, and every sunrise meant you had won another battle. This is what it was actually like to survive a medieval winter. Before we get into it, if you find yourself coming back to these stories, hit that subscribe button. And I'm always curious where everyone's listening from. Drop your city and what time it is in the comments. Sometimes I'll see someone from Finland saying it's 3 in the morning while someone in California is having lunch. Time zones are wild when you think about it. Alright, so tonight we're heading back to medieval England. But before we go anywhere, get yourself comfortable. I mean it. Fix those pillows. Pull that blanket up a little higher. Because where we're going, you're going to want to be wrapped up tight. Your eyes open to darkness. Not the kind of darkness you're used to. Not the soft glow of a streetlight through curtains or the faint green of a charging cable across the room. This is total darkness. The kind that swallows everything. The kind your ancestors knew intimately, feared deeply, and navigated by feel alone. Your first breath hurts. The air is so cold it stings your nostrils, burns the back of your throat, settles into your chest like a physical weight. Each exhale rises in a visible cloud, though you cannot see it. You can feel it, though. The moisture leaving your body, stolen by the winter air before it even clears your lips. Your name is Agnes. You're 23 years old, and by the standards of your time, you're doing remarkably well. You've survived childbirth twice. Your husband still lives. Your parents made it through last winter. Not everyone can say that. Not everyone can say any of that. The year is 1347. January, probably. You stopped keeping careful count of the days somewhere around Christmas, when the priest marked the birth of Christ and the village managed a feast that felt almost normal. Now the days blur together, dark to dark, cold to cold. The same desperate rhythm of survival stretching out ahead of you like an endless frozen field. You're lying on a straw mattress, and I use the word mattress generously here. It's more like a large sack stuffed with hay and dried rushes, flattened by months of use until it's barely thicker than a folded blanket in some spots. You can feel the cold seeping up from the dirt floor beneath you, radiating through the thin layer of straw, like the ground itself is trying to pull the warmth from your bones. The mattress crunches when you shift. Bits of straw poke through the rough fabric covering and jab at your arms, your back, the tender skin behind your knees. Somewhere in that straw, fleas are waking up too. They'll want breakfast soon. You'll be on the menu. But here's the thing. You're not alone on this mattress. Your daughter is pressed against your left side. She's 4 years old, small and warm, her breathing slow and steady. Your son is somewhere near your feet, curled into a ball. He's 7, and he generates heat like a small furnace. Your husband lies behind you, his chest against your back, his arm heavy across your waist. His breath is warm on your neck, and you're grateful for it. Beyond your family, other shapes occupy the darkness. Your mother sleeps on a separate pallet near the wall. You can hear her snoring, a rattling wheeze that's gotten worse this winter. Your father is somewhere near her, though he's been up twice already tonight to tend the fire. You heard him shuffling around in the darkness, feeding precious sticks to the flames, trying to keep the embers alive until morning. And then there are the animals. In the corner opposite your sleeping area, Separated by nothing more than a low wattle fence, live the true heroes of your winter survival. 2 sheep packed tight together, 3 chickens roosting on a crude wooden perch, and most importantly your family's prized possession, a single, magnificent, absolutely filthy pig. The pig's name is Edmund. You did not name him Edmund because it seemed funny. You named him Edmund because your husband's brother was named Edmund, and he died of fever 3 summers ago, and somehow naming the pig after him felt like keeping something of him alive. The logic doesn't hold up well, but grief rarely does. Edmund the pig is worth more than everything else in this house combined. More than the wooden bowls, the iron pot, the woolen blankets, the clay jugs, the wooden trunk that holds your family's entire material wealth. Edmund represents food security. Edmund represents survival. Edmund represents the difference between making it through to spring and joining your brother-in-law in the churchyard. So Edmund sleeps inside with you, along with everyone else. The smell is something you've stopped noticing. Imagine the worst locker room you've ever been in. Now add animal dung, now add smoke, now add the fact that no one has bathed since September, and bathing isn't coming back until the streams thaw, and even then it'll be a quick, miserable affair done as fast as possible before the cold reclaims you. Now add the particular funk of wool that's never been properly washed, only occasionally scraped clean and dried by the fire. Now live in that smell, every moment of every day, until your nose just gives up and decides this is normal. Your eyes adjust slowly to the darkness, and shapes begin to emerge. The fire pit sits in the centre of the single room that constitutes your entire home. The last of the embers glow faintly red, barely visible, throwing almost no light but providing just enough warmth to keep the air temperature above deadly. The smoke from the fire has no chimney to escape through. Chimneys exist, sure, but they're for the manor house, for the lord's family, for people who live lives you can barely imagine. Your smoke escapes through a small hole in the thatched roof, or tries to anyway. Mostly it just fills the upper half of the room, creating a permanent haze that stings your eyes and blackens the underside of the thatch. You've been breathing this smoke every day of your life. So did your mother. So did her mother. Your lungs are probably dark as coal by now. You don't think about it. The walls are wattle and daub. That's a fancy way of saying sticks woven together and plastered with a mixture of mud, straw and animal dung. It works surprisingly well as insulation, actually. Those walls are nearly a foot thick in places, and they keep out the worst of the wind. But the cold still gets in. It seeps through the gaps around the door. It radiates from the ground. It presses against the single small window, covered not with glass but with a piece of oiled linen that does almost nothing to stop the chill, but does block enough light that you can tell when the sun rises. How cold is it? Cold enough that water left in a bucket overnight freezes solid. Cold enough that your breath freezes in your hair while you sleep, leaving a crust of ice on your brow by morning. Cold enough that small children and old people die from it, regularly, quietly, during the long nights when the fire burns low and bodies can't generate enough heat to keep the blood flowing to their fingers and toes. The church records from this period are full of winter deaths. So and so died of the cold. Such and such perished in the frost. The weather took them. The season claimed them. These were acceptable deaths, expected deaths, the price of surviving at all. You feel your husband stir behind you. His arm tightens around your waist, and for a moment you both just lie there, neither wanting to be the first to break the seal of warmth you've created. Moving means letting cold air under the blankets. Moving means starting the day. Moving means work. But the fire is dying. You can hear it in the silence. The crackle and pop of burning wood has faded to almost nothing. The faint hiss of moisture in the sticks is gone. If someone doesn't get up soon and feed that fire, it will die completely. And restarting a fire from scratch in the dark, in the cold, with numbed fingers and breath that fogs immediately, is one of the worst ways to start any day. So you wait. You listen for your father. He's usually the one who handles the overnight fire duty, shuffling around in the darkness, keeping the flames alive through sheer force of habit. But tonight he's silent. Either he's sleeping deeply, which would be unusual, or he's already up and quietly feeding the fire, which means you might be able to steal a few more minutes of warmth. The silence stretches. Your daughter shifts against your side, making a small sound of protest. She's dreaming, maybe. Or perhaps she's half awake, sensing the cold, instinctively pressing closer to your body heat. You wrap your arm around her, pulling her tighter against you. Her hair smells like smoke and something faintly sour. You don't mind. From the animal corner, Edmund snorts. It's a surprisingly loud sound in the quiet darkness, and it triggers a chain reaction. One of the chickens clucks. A sheep bleats softly. For a moment, the house sounds almost alive, almost busy, as if dawn has already broken and the day has begun. But it hasn't. Through the oiled linen window you can see nothing, not even the faintest hint of grey. The darkness outside is as complete as the darkness inside. The sun won't rise for hours yet, assuming it rises at all. Winter days are short in England. Sometimes the sun barely clears the horizon before it starts setting again. You've lived entire weeks in a perpetual twilight. The sky never quite light, never quite dark, just a uniform grey that weighs on your spirit like a physical burden. Your father coughs. The sound comes from across the room, followed by the rustle of movement. You hear him sit up, hear the soft groan he always makes when his joints protest the cold. Hear him feeling around in the darkness for his shoes, those worn leather boots stuffed with straw for insulation that he guards more carefully than almost anything else he owns. Then you hear him moving toward the fire, the scrape of the iron poker against the stone hearth, the soft crunch of wood being shifted, the gentle whoosh of breath as he blows on the embers, trying to coax flame from ash, a spark, another, the faint crackle of fire catching on kindling. Light blooms in the darkness, not much light, just enough to cast dancing shadows on the walls, to illuminate your father's face in warm orange glow, to reveal the smoke that hangs thick in the air above your head. But after hours of total darkness, it feels almost blinding. Your father looks old in this light. He's 42, which makes him elderly by the standards of your time. His hair has gone grey, his face is lined and weathered. His hands, which feed the fire with practiced efficiency, are gnarled and scarred from decades of farm work. He catches you watching him and offers a brief, tired smile. The day, such as it is, has begun. But not quite yet. Not quite. Because there's one more ritual to complete, one more acknowledgement of the forces that keep you alive and could just as easily take you away. You close your eyes and you pray. The words are familiar. You've said them every morning of your life, and your mother said them every morning of hers, and her mother before that, stretching back through generations of peasants who lived and died on this same land, under this same sky, fighting this same endless battle against the cold. You thank God for another night survived. You ask for strength for the day ahead. You pray for enough food, enough warmth, enough grace to make it through until spring. You pray for the children that they might grow up strong, for your husband that his health might hold, for your parents that they might see one more summer, and somewhere in those prayers, held close to your heart where no one else can see, you pray for yourself, for another year of life, for another season of breath, for the simple, impossible luxury of waking up again tomorrow. The fire grows stronger. The first fingers of warmth begin to reach across the room. Edmund snorts again, this time with what sounds almost like satisfaction. The chickens begin to stir in earnest. Your son kicks off his corner of the blanket and immediately curses the cold. And you, Agnes of Wickham, peasant woman of medieval England, mother of 2, wife of 1, daughter of 2 more, prepare to face another winter day. Not because it will be easy, not because it will be pleasant, but because the alternative is unthinkable. You push back the blanket and feel the cold hit your skin like a physical blow. Your breath fogs immediately. Your muscles tense and protest. Everything in your body screams at you to burrow back under the covers, to reclaim that precious warmth, to let someone else handle whatever needs handling. But you don't. Because someone has to keep this family alive. Someone has to check the animals and stoke the fire and start the morning pottage and make sure the children are fed and dressed and functional. Someone has to hold everything together against the crushing weight of winter. Today, that someone is you. And in a way, that's okay. Because you know something that your lord in his stone manor house will never understand. You know something that the king in his distant palace surrounded by servants cannot fathom. You know what it means to survive, not to live, not to thrive, not to prosper or flourish, or any of those fancy words the priests use in their sermons about God's bounty. Just to survive. To wake up in the cold and the dark and the smoke and the smell and know, with absolute certainty, that you are still here. Still breathing, still fighting, still getting up one more time to face one more day. That knowledge is worth more than gold. The fire crackles. Edmund snorts. Your daughter rolls over and mumbles something in her sleep. And outside, invisible beyond the oiled linen window, the first faint hint of grey begins to lighten the eastern sky. A new day is coming. You're going to survive it. You swing your legs over the edge of the mattress and your bare feet hit the floor. The cold shoots up through your soles like you've stepped on ice, which honestly you might as well have. The packed earth floor has been absorbing cold all night, drawing heat from the room, storing it somewhere deep underground where you'll never get it back. Your toes curl reflexively, trying to minimize contact. Your shoes are somewhere nearby. You grope around in the dimness, fingers brushing against straw, against the rough wool of a blanket edge, against something sticky that you choose not to investigate further. Finally, leather. You grab the shoes and pull them toward you. They're stiff with cold. The leather has contracted overnight, and for a moment you're not sure they'll even fit. You force your foot in anyway, wincing as the frozen material presses against your skin. Tomorrow you'll remember to tuck them under the blankets with you. Tonight you forgot. This is the price. Your husband is sitting up now, rubbing his face with both hands. In the growing firelight he looks exhausted. He's been coughing for 3 days, a wet sound that comes from deep in his chest and worries you more than you let on. Chest coughs kill people. You've seen it happen. A cough becomes a fever becomes a delirium, and then the priest is saying words over a fresh grave. But you don't say any of that. Instead, you catch his eye and nod toward the fire. He nods back. There's a whole conversation in that exchange, a married language of glances and gestures developed over 7 years of sleeping side by side. He'll handle the fire. You'll handle the food. The children will stay in bed as long as possible, conserving body heat until the room warms enough to move without pain. Your mother is already up. She moves like a ghost in the dim light, her grey hair loose around her shoulders, her movements slow but purposeful. She's heading toward the corner where you keep the cooking supplies, the iron pot, the wooden ladle, the clay jars filled with the remnants of last autumn's harvest. You join her without speaking. Words cost energy. Energy costs heat. Heat costs life. In winter, you learn to communicate in silences, in touches, in the efficient choreography of bodies that have done this same dance 1,000 mornings before. The pot is heavy. It's your most valuable cooking implement, this iron pot. It belonged to your grandmother before it belonged to your mother, and someday it will belong to you, and after that to your daughter, assuming everyone survives long enough for that handoff to happen. Iron is expensive. A pot this size represents years of savings, generations of careful use, a family heirloom more precious than any ring or necklace. You carry it to the fire pit and set it on the iron tripod that holds it over the flames. Your mother follows with a clay jug of water. Well, it was water yesterday. Now it's water with a thin crust of ice on top. She cracks through the ice with her knuckle and pours the contents into the pot. The water hits the iron and hisses, already starting to warm. Breakfast will be pottage. Not because you particularly want pottage, not because pottage is delicious or exciting or something you look forward to, but because pottage is what you have. Pottage is what you've had every morning since the harvest ended and the fresh vegetables ran out. Pottage is what you'll have every morning until the spring brings something new to eat. Your mother reaches into another jar and pulls out a handful of dried peas. They rattle against the pot like tiny stones. Another handful, another. Then some barley, golden brown and hard as pebbles. A few dried beans. A chunk of something that might have once been a turnip, now shriveled and leathery but still edible if you cook it long enough. Into the pot it all goes. The fire crackles beneath, and slowly, slowly, the water begins to steam. Your mother stirs with the wooden ladle, scraping the bottom of the pot to make sure nothing sticks. The motion is automatic. She's been making pottage since before you were born. She could probably make it in her sleep. Some mornings she practically does. While the pottage cooks, you turn to the real challenge of the morning, getting dressed. Now, you might think getting dressed is simple. You wake up, you put on clothes, you go about your day, but you're thinking about getting dressed in a world with central heating, with clothes designed to be comfortable, with the luxury of changing your outfit whenever you feel like it. Medieval getting dressed is a different beast entirely. First, you're already wearing most of what you own. The linen shift you slept in is your underwear, your pyjamas, and your base layer all in one. It's rough against your skin, woven from fibres that haven't been softened by any process more sophisticated than repeated wearing. But linen has properties that matter in winter. It dries fast when it gets damp. It breathes. And most importantly, it creates a barrier between your skin and the wool. Because the wool is coming next. Your mother hands you your winter dress. It's made of thick, dense, undyed wool. a greyish-brown colour that matches the mud and the smoke and pretty much everything else in your life. It weighs probably 10 pounds. When you pull it over your head, it settles on your shoulders like a blanket made of sandpaper. The itch is immediate. Wool, especially wool that hasn't been processed by any of the techniques that won't be invented for another few centuries, is brutally scratchy. Without that linen shift underneath, your skin would be raw within an hour. Even with it, you'll spend the day occasionally twitching, occasionally adjusting, occasionally fighting the urge to just strip everything off and scratch until you bleed. But wool keeps you alive. Wet wool still insulates. Cold wool still holds heat. Dirty wool, smelly wool, wool that hasn't been properly washed in months, still stands between you and hypothermia. So you wear the wool. You wear it every day. You wear it indoors and outdoors, sleeping and waking, working and resting. The wool is your second skin. Over the wool dress goes another layer. A sleeveless tunic, also wool, also itchy, providing extra insulation for your core. Your mother ties it at the waist with a strip of leather, cinching it tight to trap warm air against your body. The technique is the same one you use when bundling babies. Layers, tightly wrapped, creating pockets of warmth. Then the accessories. Woolen stockings pulled up past your knees and tied with strips of cloth. A wool hood that covers your head, your neck, your shoulders. It drapes down your back like a short cape. Woolen mittens that leave your fingers free but cover your palms. And finally, your cloak. The cloak is the closest thing you own to a luxury item. Your husband's mother made it as a wedding gift, spending months carding and spinning and weaving the wool, then treating it with lanolin to make it somewhat water-resistant. It's thick enough that you could use it as a blanket, heavy enough that wearing it feels like carrying a small child on your shoulders, warm enough that you'd probably die without it. You wrap it around yourself and fasten it with a simple iron pin. And now, finally, you're dressed. Except for your outdoor shoes, which you'll put on if you need to go outside. Except for the extra hood you'll add if it's snowing. Except for the strips of cloth you'll wrap around your hands if your mittens aren't enough. Getting dressed in medieval winter isn't a single event. It's an ongoing negotiation with the cold, adding and removing layers as the day demands. The pottage is starting to smell like food. It's a thin smell, watery and faintly vegetable. Not particularly appetizing, but not offensive either. Just the smell of survival. The smell of another meal you'll manage to cobble together from the dwindling stores in your cottage. Your children are awake now. Your daughter is crying. Not the sharp, distressed cry of an injury, but the low, miserable whine of a cold child forced to leave a warm bed. Your son is stoic, already pulling on his own layers with the grim efficiency of a small adult. He learned early that complaining doesn't change anything, it just wastes energy. Your husband coughs again. This time it's a bad one. A hacking fit that bends him double and leaves him gasping. You watch from across the room, pretending not to watch, giving him the dignity of not being observed in his weakness. When the coughing stops, he straightens up and meets your eyes. He'll be fine. That's what his look says. He'll be fine. Don't worry, it's just a cough. You nod. 'Cause what else can you do? There's no doctor to call, no medicine to give, no hospital to visit. If the cough gets worse, you'll make him a tea from dried elderflower if you have any left. You'll keep him warm. You'll pray. That's the full extent of medieval healthcare for someone of your status. Your father is stoking the fire higher now. He's feeding it the good wood, the dry oak that's been curing since summer. It catches quickly, flames leaping up, heat radiating outward in waves. For a moment, for just a moment, you feel almost warm. The fire pushes back the cold, creates a bubble of livable air in the centre of the room. Everyone gravitates toward it. Your mother carries the pot closer to the flames, stirring more vigorously as the pottage begins to bubble. Your children huddle as near to the fire as they dare, their small hands extended toward the heat. Your husband positions himself where the warmth can reach his chest, maybe soothe whatever's churning in his lungs, and you stand for a moment and just watch. This is your family. These are the people who will live or die based on your decisions, your work, your ability to keep everything running through the dark months ahead. Looking at them now, firelit and sleepy and draped in layers of rough wool, they look both impossibly fragile and impossibly strong. Edmund snorts from his corner. Right. The animals. Someone has to deal with the animals. You move toward the low wattle fence that separates the living space from the livestock area. The fence is barely knee-high, more of a suggestion than a barrier, meant to keep the animals from wandering into your sleeping area rather than to actually contain them. Edmund could knock it over with one good shove. He just chooses not to. The smell hits you first. Animal dung and hay and wet wool and something vaguely biological that you've stopped trying to identify. The animals have been packed into this corner all night, generating warmth and waste in roughly equal measure. The straw bedding beneath them is dark with moisture. It'll need to be changed soon, but not today. Today you'll just add more straw on top and deal with the mess when you have time. The chickens are awake and annoyed. They cluck at you accusingly as you approach, as if you've personally wronged them by making winter happen. You check their roost for eggs, more out of habit than hope. Hens don't lay much in winter. The days are too short, the cold too bitter, but occasionally you get lucky. Today is not an occasional day. No eggs. The sheep are fine. They're always fine. They're essentially wearing their own wool blankets year-round, which gives them a biological advantage you frequently envy. They bear at you as you check their water trough, which has frozen over again. You'll need to bring hot water from the fire to melt it. Another task for the list. And Edmund. Edmund the Magnificent. Edmund the Corpulent. Edmund the pig who represents your family's entire savings. He looks up at you with his small, intelligent eyes and grunts a greeting. You scratch behind his ears, feeling the coarse bristles under your fingers. His skin is warm. That's good. Pigs can get sick too, and a sick pig in winter is often a dead pig, and a dead pig means a hungry spring. But Edmund is healthy. Edmund is eating well. Edmund, against all odds, seems to be thriving. You'll slaughter him eventually. That's what pigs are for. When the winter stores run low enough, when the choice comes down to Edmund or your children going hungry, you'll take the knife to Edmund's throat and bleed him out and hang him in the cold to cure. You'll eat pork, for weeks afterward, preserved in salt you bought from the merchant who comes through twice a year. Every part of Edmund will be used. The meat, the fat, the organs, the blood. Even the bones will be boiled for broth. But not today. Today, Edmund lives. You give him an extra scratch and turn back to the fire. Your mother is dishing out the pottage now. Each family member gets a wooden bowl. Each bowl gets a careful ladle of the thin, steaming gruel. There's no bread this morning. The last of the barley flour went into yesterday's loaf, and you won't be able to grind more until the weather clears enough to visit the mill. So it's just pottage, and maybe a bit of hard cheese if your mother is feeling generous. She's feeling generous. From a clay pot sealed with wax, she produces a round of cheese that's been aging since autumn. It's hard as rock and smells like feet, but it's protein and fat and calories, and in winter, those things matter more than taste. She cuts thin slices with the knife, one for each person, then tucks the rest back into the pot and seals it again. You take your bowl and your cheese and find a spot by the fire. The first sip of pottage is always the best. Not because it tastes good, it doesn't really taste like much of anything, but because it's hot, and the heat spreads through your chest and into your belly, and reminds your body that you're still alive, still functioning, still capable of fighting through another day. Your daughter slurps beside you, making appreciative noises that have nothing to do with the quality of the food, and everything to do with the warmth in her stomach. Your son eats mechanically, already thinking about whatever tasks await him today. Your husband eats slowly, pausing occasionally to suppress another cough, and your father reaches for the ale. The ale lives in a barrel by the door, covered with a wooden lid to keep out the dust and the mice and whatever else might want to crawl inside. It's weak stuff, more water than alcohol, brewed from barley that couldn't be used for anything else. But ale is safer than water. Ale won't give you the flux or the fever or any of the 1,000 waterborne diseases that kill peasants as surely as any sword. Everyone drinks ale. Your children drink ale. Your parents drink ale. Your husband drinks enough ale to float a small boat. It's breakfast and lunch and dinner, the liquid accompaniment to every meal, the baseline of hydration in a world where clean water is a luxury. Your father pours cups for everyone. The ale is cold, of course. Everything is cold. But it's wet and familiar and faintly sweet from the barley, and it washes down the pottage nicely enough. You drink and eat and drink some more, and gradually the gnawing emptiness in your stomach subsides into something like satisfaction. The fire pops and crackles. Outside, beyond the oiled linen window, the grey light is growing stronger. Not sunlight, not yet. Just the pale pre-dawn glow that means the world is waking up reluctantly, begrudgingly, as unwilling as you were to leave the warmth of bed. Soon you'll have to go out there, check the wood pile, haul water from the well if the well isn't frozen, see to whatever repairs can't wait another day. Survive, essentially. Do all the 1,000 small things that add up to making it through winter. But for now, just for this moment, you sit by the fire with your family and your pottage and your weak barley ale, and you let yourself feel something almost like contentment. Your daughter leans against your side, bowl empty, eyes drooping. You wrap an arm around her and hold her close. Outside, the winter waits, but inside, surrounded by the people you love and the warmth you've built, you're ready for it. The door doesn't want to open. You push against it with your shoulder, feeling the wood groan in protest. Ice has formed overnight in the gaps between the door and the frame, sealing it shut like nature's own lock. You push harder. Something cracks. The door swings outward and the cold hits you like a fist. This is a different cold than inside. Inside was uncomfortable. Inside was bitter. Inside made you want to stay under the blankets forever. Outside is trying to kill you. The air burns going down. Your eyes water immediately, tears freezing on your lashes before they can fall. The exposed skin of your face goes numb within seconds. You pull your hood tighter, tugging it forward until only your eyes and nose are visible, and even then you can feel the frost biting at your flesh. The world is white, not the pretty white of paintings or the gentle white of first snowfall. This is the harsh, blinding white of deep winter, Snow piled high enough to swallow a child, ice glazing every surface, the sky above a flat grey that promises more of the same. The sun is up there somewhere, hidden behind the clouds, providing light without warmth. Typical. Your footsteps crunch. The snow has a crust on top, frozen solid overnight, and each step breaks through with a sharp crack before your foot sinks into the softer powder beneath. It's exhausting work just to walk. By the time you reach the woodpile, maybe 30 feet from your door, you're already breathing hard. The woodpile is your family's other treasure. Not as valuable as Edmund, maybe, but close. Stacked against the cottage wall, protected somewhat by the overhang of the thatched roof, sits enough firewood to last until February. Maybe March if you're careful. Your father and your husband spent most of autumn cutting and splitting and stacking this wood, working from dawn to dusk while the weather was still mild enough to swing an axe without losing fingers to frostbite. You eye the pile critically. It's smaller than you'd like. The logs on the outside are crusted with ice, which means they'll hiss and spit when you burn them, wasting precious heat on evaporating water before they catch properly. The good stuff, the dry stuff, is deeper in the pile. You'll have to dig, but not right now. Right now you just need to grab enough to feed the fire for the next few hours. You work quickly, pulling logs from the outer layer, tucking them under your arm until you can't carry any more. 6 logs. 8. 10. Your arms are screaming and your back is protesting, and you're pretty sure you can't feel your fingers anymore. But you've got enough wood to keep your family warm until midday. The walk back to the cottage feels twice as long. The wood is heavy, the snow is deep. Your body is already tired from a night of restless sleep on a straw mattress in a frozen room. But you make it. You shoulder through the door, dump the logs by the fire pit, and allow yourself exactly 3 seconds to stand in front of the flames before heading back out. Because the well isn't going to empty itself. The village well sits in the centre of the green, which is not green at all right now, but rather a flat expanse of trampled snow, surrounded by cottages that look remarkably like yours. A dozen households share this well. In summer, it's a gathering place, a spot for gossip and news and the occasional argument. In winter, it's just another obstacle between you and survival. You grab the buckets from beside your door and start walking. Other figures are emerging from other cottages now. There's Martha from 3 doors down, wrapped so thoroughly in wool that she looks like a walking blanket. She raises a mittened hand in greeting and you nod back. Words are too expensive in cold like this. Every open mouth lets precious heat escape. There's old William, who's not actually that old but looks ancient, his face weathered by decades of outdoor work. He's heading toward the well too, moving with the careful shuffle of someone who's fallen on the ice before and has no intention of doing it again. And there's Father Aldrich, the village priest, stepping out of the small stone church that squats at the edge of the green like a toad in winter clothing. He's the only person in the village with access to a stone building, and even he looks miserable, his breath fogging, his nose bright red against his pale face. The well is frozen. Of course it is. You stand at the edge and look down into the darkness, and where water should be reflecting the grey sky back at you, there's only ice. Not thick ice, not yet. Just a crust, maybe an inch deep, that formed overnight and is now standing between the entire village and its water supply. Old William produces a hammer. It's a crude thing, just a rock lashed to a wooden handle, but it does the job. He swings down once, twice, 3 times. The ice cracks. Water sloshes up through the break. Everyone shuffles forward to fill their buckets before the ice can reform. The water is so cold it hurts your hands through the mittens. You haul up bucket after bucket, filling your 2 containers as fast as you can, then step back to let Martha take her turn. Your arms are shaking from the weight. Your shoulders ache. But you've got water now, enough for cooking and drinking and melting for the animals, enough to make it through another day. The walk back is the worst part. Full buckets are heavy. Full buckets slosh and splash. Full buckets throw off your balance on the icy ground, making each step a negotiation between speed and safety. You watch your feet, choosing your path carefully, stepping in the footprints you made on the way here. You're halfway home when you hear the scream. It's a child's scream, high and sharp, coming from somewhere behind the cottages. Your heart lurches. Your daughter is inside, safe by the fire. Your son is inside too, but someone's child isn't, and that scream doesn't sound like playing. You abandon your buckets and run. Running in snow is almost impossible. Your feet punch through the crust with every step, your legs sinking to mid-calf, your body lurching forward with an awkward, desperate motion that barely qualifies as movement. But you push through. Behind the cottages, where the village gives way to the fields, you find the source of the scream. It's Edgar, the blacksmith's boy. He's maybe 10 years old, and he's standing at the edge of the frozen pond with tears streaming down his face and snot bubbling from his nose. He's pointing at the ice, at the hole in the ice, at the small shape struggling in the water where the ice gave way. Oh no, it's his little sister, Emma. She's 4, same age as your daughter, and she must have wandered out onto the pond thinking it was solid. She's chest deep in freezing water now, her small hands scrabbling at the ice edge, her mouth open in a silent scream because she's too cold to make sound anymore. You don't think, you just move. There's a stick nearby, a long branch that must have fallen from one of the oaks at the pond's edge. You grab it and drop to your belly on the ice, distributing your weight across as wide an area as possible. The ice groans beneath you. You ignore it. You slide forward on your stomach, pushing with your elbows, holding the stick out ahead of you like a lance. The ice is cracking. You can hear it. Little pops and snaps that mean the whole surface might give way at any moment. You ignore that too. Emma's face is turning blue. You stretch the stick toward her, pushing it into her tiny hands, screaming at her to hold on. She grabs it. Her grip is weak, her fingers already clumsy with cold, but she holds. You pull. The ice beneath you shudders. A crack races across the surface, maybe a foot from your face. You pull harder. Emma slides toward you, her body breaking through the thin ice as she comes, creating a channel of dark water in the white expanse. Pull, pull, pull. Hands grab your ankles. Someone is pulling you backward while you pull Emma forward. The chain of bodies stretches across the ice, anchored by whoever reached you first, and inch by inch you drag Emma out of the water and onto the more solid ice near shore. She's not moving. Her eyes are closed. Her lips are blue. Her small body is limp in your arms as you gather her up and run toward the nearest cottage, which happens to be Martha's. Martha takes one look and throws open her door. Inside, the fire is blazing. Martha must have just stoked it, because the heat hits you like a wave. You carry Emma to the hearth and start stripping off her wet clothes, working with desperate speed. Wet clothes in this cold are a death sentence. The water will steal her heat faster than any fire can replace it. Martha brings blankets, dry blankets, wool blankets that smell like smoke and animals but are warm, wonderfully warm. You wrap Emma like a baby, cocoon her in layer after layer, and hold her against your own body to share your heat. Come on, wake up. A minute passes, 2. Then Emma coughs. Water spurts from her mouth. Her eyes flutter open. She looks at you with absolute confusion, like she has no idea how she got here or who you are or why she's wrapped in blankets by a stranger's fire. And then she starts to cry. It's the most beautiful sound you've ever heard. You hold her close while she sobs, feeling her small body shake against yours, feeling the life returning to her limbs. She's going to be all right. She's going to survive. Against all odds, in a world where children die every winter from moments just like this one, this particular child is going to live. Martha brings hot ale, not for Emma, for you. Your hands are shaking so badly you can barely hold the cup, and you realize that you're soaking wet too. The ice, the water, the desperate crawl across the frozen pond. Your cloak is damp, your dress is damp, your stockings are definitely damp, but you're alive, and so is Emma. The blacksmith arrives 20 minutes later, having been summoned by Edgar. He's a massive man, shoulders like an ox, hands like shovels, and right now he's crying like a baby. He gathers Emma into his arms and holds her so tightly you worry he might break her. "Thank you," he keeps saying. "Thank you. I'll never forget this. Anything you need. Anything." You nod and say nothing. 'Cause what is there to say? You didn't think. You didn't calculate. You just saw a child drowning and you moved. That's what people do in villages like this. That's what survival means when you're all packed together against the cold. You save each other, or you die alone. Martha insists on drying your clothes by her fire. So you sit there, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, wearing a borrowed shift, watching the steam rise from your cloak as it hangs near the flames. Your own fire will be dying by now. Your own family will be wondering where you are. But you can't walk home in wet clothes. That would be suicide. Through Martha's window you can see the village going about its morning. Smoke rises from every chimney, or every smoke hole anyway. Figures move between cottages, carrying wood, carrying water, carrying the endless burdens of winter life. Someone is repairing a fence that must have collapsed under the snow. Someone else is breaking ice off their roof before the weight can bring the whole structure down. This is what winter looks like from the inside. Not the pretty paintings of snow-covered landscapes, not the romantic notions of cosy firesides and warm drinks. Just work. Endless, exhausting, life or death work. Every single day. Martha brings you more ale and sits down beside you. She's older than you by maybe 10 years, a widow whose husband died in the last great sickness. She lives alone now, which is dangerous in winter. No one to share body heat with. No one to tend the fire if she gets sick. No one to notice if she just doesn't wake up one morning. But she's tough, Martha. Tough as old leather. "How's your man?" she asks. "Heard him coughing at the well yesterday." You shrug. "The same." Martha nods. "My brother had a cough like that once." She doesn't finish the sentence. She doesn't need to. You sit in silence for a while. Your clothes are almost dry now. The steam has stopped rising. Your cloak looks like it might actually be wearable again, though it'll smell like Martha's fire instead of your own. You should go. Your family needs you. Your fire needs tending. The buckets you abandoned by the well need retrieving before someone decides they're community property now. Life doesn't stop just because you pulled a drowning child from a frozen pond, but you allow yourself one more minute by Martha's fire. Just one more minute of warmth, one more minute of rest, One more minute to feel your heartbeat slow from the frantic pounding of the rescue to something approaching normal. Then you stand. You thank Martha. You pull on your still damp cloak and step back out into the cold. The walk home is quiet. The village has absorbed the morning's drama and moved on. Someone else has retrieved your buckets from the path, left them propped against your cottage door. Small kindnesses like that are how communities survive. You remember them. You repay them when you can. Your door opens before you reach it. Your husband is standing there, eyes wide, face pale above his wrapped scarf. He pulls you inside without a word, guides you toward the fire, starts checking you for injuries like you're a child who just fell out of a tree. "I'm fine," you tell him. "I'm fine." He doesn't believe you. He keeps checking anyway. And despite everything, despite the cold and the wet and the terror of those few minutes on the ice, you feel something warm spreading through your chest. You made it. Emma made it. Everyone made it. That's what matters. The fire crackles. Your daughter runs to hug your legs. Your son looks up from the corner where he's been mending a fishing net and nods, just once, an acknowledgement that you did good. And somewhere outside, in a cottage on the other side of the village, a little girl with blue lips is warming up beside her father's fire alive because you happen to be walking past at the right moment. Winter is brutal. Winter is cruel. Winter kills without mercy or warning. But sometimes, just sometimes, you get to push back. The church bell rings at noon. It's the only way anyone knows what time it is. No clocks in the village, no sundials that work under grey winter skies. Just Father Aldrich hauling on the rope in the stone bell tower, sending that heavy iron note rolling across the frozen fields. Noon means dinner. Not the kind of dinner you're probably imagining. Not a spread of dishes, not multiple courses, not anything that would qualify as a meal by modern standards. Just more pottage, thicker now after simmering all morning, served with whatever else can be scraped together. Your mother ladles out the bowls again. The pottage has transformed during the hours you were gone. The dried peas have softened into mush. The barley has swelled until each grain is plump and tender. The mystery turnip chunk has dissolved entirely, leaving behind only a faintly sweet taste and a slightly thicker texture. It's not good, but it's not bad either. It's just food. Your husband eats slowly. He's coughing less now, which could be a good sign or a bad sign. Sometimes coughs get quieter before they get worse. Sometimes the body just gives up on fighting, and the sickness settles deeper, moving from the throat to the chest to the lungs where it can do real damage. You watch him without watching him, a skill you've perfected over 7 years of marriage. After dinner, your father announces he's going to check on the food stores. This is not a casual activity. This is the most important audit your family will conduct all winter. Everything depends on what he finds in the storage corner, the clay pots and wooden barrels and linen sacks that hold the difference between survival and starvation. You follow him. The storage area sits in the darkest corner of the cottage, away from the fire's heat, where the cold actually helps preserve what little you have. Your father lifts a rough wooden lid and peers inside the first barrel. Barley. He reaches in, runs the grain through his fingers, estimates the depth. Maybe 2 months' worth, he says. If we're careful, 2 months puts you in March. That's not bad. March is when things start thawing, when the first green shoots appear, when the world remembers that it's supposed to be alive. The next barrel is peas, dried, shriveled, rattling against the wooden sides like pebbles in a cup. Your father does the same calculation. 6 weeks, maybe 7. Less good. 6 weeks is mid-February. The hungry gap between winter stores running out and spring crops coming in. That gap kills people. That gap is what separates the families who make it from the families who don't. The sacks are worse. One holds oats, maybe a month's supply. Another holds beans, also about a month. A third holds something that might have been turnips once, but now looks like a collection of withered fists, their moisture long since evaporated. Your father straightens up and does the math in his head. You can see him working through it. How many mouths to feed? How many days until spring? How much buffer for emergencies? How much to set aside for seed? Because if you eat your seed grain, you might survive this winter, but you'll definitely starve next year. It's going to be tight. He doesn't say this out loud. He doesn't need to. You can read it in the set of his shoulders, the way he replaces each lid with excessive care, the silence that stretches between you like a held breath. Tight means rationing. Tight means smaller portions. Tight means your children going to bed hungry some nights so there's enough for everyone in the morning. But tight isn't impossible. Tight can be survived. You've done it before. The cheese is the real treasure. Your mother has been hoarding it since autumn, sealing each round in wax, tucking them into the coldest corner of the coldest spot. You count 4 rounds remaining, maybe 5 pounds total, protein and fat that will keep your family's strength up when the pottage alone isn't enough. There's also the salted pork, a half side wrapped in linen and hung from the rafters where the smoke can keep it preserved. Your husband's father slaughtered the pig back in November, shared the meat with your family as part of some complicated arrangement involving labour and debts and obligations you don't fully understand. It doesn't matter. What matters is the pork exists, pink and fatty beneath its crust of salt, waiting to be sliced thin and added to the pot when things get desperate. And then there's Edmund. No one mentions Edmund, but everyone looks toward the corner where he's sleeping, his bulk rising and falling with each snoring breath. Edmund is the last resort. Edmund is the break glass in case of emergency option. Edmund represents maybe 200 pounds of meat on the hoof, enough to feed your family for a month if it comes to that. It won't come to that. Probably. A knock at the door. Your heart jumps. Unexpected visitors in winter are rarely good news. Disease, death, demands from the manor, soldiers passing through. The list of bad possibilities is long. The list of good possibilities is short. Your father opens the door. It's Robert, the reeve. Robert is the Lord's man in the village. Not a noble himself, just a peasant like the rest of you, but elevated to a position of minor authority. He collects the rents, he settles disputes, he carries messages between the manor house and the village, and right now he's standing in your doorway with snow on his shoulders and an apologetic expression on his weathered face. "Lord wants to see the men," Robert says, "tomorrow morning. Something about the spring labour." Your father nods. Your husband coughs. Robert pretends not to notice. After Robert leaves, your father sits down, heavily by the fire. Spring labour. That means the Lord is already planning for planting season, already thinking about which fields need ploughing and which ditches need digging, and how many days of work he can extract from his tenants before they collapse from exhaustion. 3 days a week. That's what your family owes. 3 days every week, your father and your husband trudge up to the manor lands and work the Lord's fields, the Lord's gardens, the Lord's whatever needs doing. In exchange, you get to live on his land, farm your own strip of field, breathe his air. It's a bargain, technically. It doesn't feel like one. The remaining 4 days belong to you. Well, 3 really, because Sunday belongs to God, and you can't work on Sunday without risking your immortal soul. So 3 days to tend your own crops, repair your own cottage, gather your own firewood, do all the 1,000 things that keep your family alive. In winter, the labour obligations ease somewhat. There's less to do on the manor when the ground is frozen and the fields are buried under snow, but the Lord still finds ways to keep his tenants busy, hauling wood, clearing paths, maintaining buildings. The work never really stops, just changes shape with the seasons. Your mother starts cleaning up from dinner. Wooden bowls get wiped with a rag and stacked by the wall. The iron pot gets scraped clean and set aside for the evening meal. The fire gets another log, carefully selected from the pile, positioned just right to burn slow and steady through the afternoon. Your children have been remarkably quiet. Your daughter is playing with a doll your mother made from rags and straw, cradling it like a baby, murmuring words too soft to hear. Your son is back at his fishing net, fingers working the knots with patient precision. In summer, that net will feed the family. Right now, it's just something to do with his hands. Winter is hard on children. They can't run outside and play for hours like they do in warm weather. They can't splash in the stream or climb trees or chase each other through the fields. They're trapped inside in the smoke and the dark and the close quarters, with nothing but each other and whatever entertainment they can manufacture. Your son is handling it well. He's always been the quiet type, content to sit and work and wait. Your daughter is struggling. She's been clingy lately, always wanting to be in your lap, always wanting your attention. She cries easily, over nothing, over everything. She's afraid of the dark, which is a problem when half your life happens in darkness. Last night she woke up screaming about monsters, and it took an hour of rocking and singing before she'd go back to sleep. You don't blame her. You'd cry too if you could afford the energy. The afternoon stretches ahead of you. In summer, this time of day would be packed with work, but winter afternoons are different. The light is already starting to fade by mid-afternoon, the grey, sky darkening toward evening. There's only so much you can do in dimness, only so many tasks that don't require being able to see clearly. So you find things to occupy your hands. Your mother is spinning. She set up her drop spindle near the fire, pulling handfuls of raw wool from a basket and transforming them into thread through some alchemical process you've watched 1,000 times, but still find slightly magical. The spindle twirls, the fibres twist, thread accumulates on the shaft, thin and even and strong. Every garment your family owned started as a sheep. That's something people forget. Before you can have a wool dress, someone has to raise the sheep, shear the sheep, clean the wool, card it, spin it, weave it, cut it, sew it. The dress on your back represents hundreds of hours of labour, most of it done by women like your mother, working their spindles through endless winter afternoons. You should be spinning too. But your hands are still shaken from this morning's rescue, and you can't quite settle into the rhythm. The thread keeps coming out uneven, thick in places, thin in others. Your mother notices but says nothing. She just keeps spinning, her hands steady, her thread perfect. Your husband is mending a shoe. The leather has cracked from the cold, split along the seam where his foot flexes. He's working an awl through the tough material, preparing holes for the waxed thread that will stitch it back together. It's delicate work. Too much pressure and the awl will punch straight through. Too little and the leather won't give. He coughs while he works. Not the deep, wet cough from this morning. Something smaller, almost casual, like his body has just accepted that this is what breathing sounds like now. You catch your mother's eye across the room. She's noticed too. Of course she has. She's been watching sickness come and go in this village for 50 years. She knows what a cough can mean. She knows how fast things can turn. But neither of you says anything. What would be the point? There's no medicine to give, no treatment to try. All you can do is keep him warm and fed and hope his body fights off whatever's trying to take hold. The fire pops, sending a shower of sparks up toward the smoke hole. Outside, the wind has picked up. You can hear it whistling through the gaps in the wattle walls, feel it pushing against the door like a living thing trying to get in. The temperature is dropping. Tonight will be colder than last night. Your daughter abandons her doll and climbs into your lap. She's heavy and warm, and she smells like smoke and wool and something uniquely her, some essence of childhood that no amount of dirt can quite mask. You wrap your arms around her and hold her close. How come the sun goes away so early, she asks. Because it's winter, you tell her. The sun gets tired in winter. It needs to rest. This is not scientifically accurate. You have no idea why winter days are short, but it's an explanation that satisfies a 4-year-old, and right now, that's what matters. Will it come back? Always, you say. The sun always comes back. She thinks about this for a moment, like Papa's cough. Will that go away too? You don't answer right away. You can't. The words stick in your throat. Yes, you finally say, like Papa's cough. It'll go away too. You hope you're not lying. The afternoon crawls toward evening. Your mother finishes one spindle of thread and starts another. Your husband finishes the shoe repair and moves on to patching a hole in his cloak. Your father dozes by the fire, head nodding, hands folded across his stomach. This is winter. This is what it looks like from the inside. Not adventure, not excitement, just hour after hour of survival, of making do, of keeping the fire burning and the family fed and the cold at bay. It's boring. It's terrifying. It's both things at once. Through the window, the light fades from grey to something darker. Evening is coming. Soon your mother will start the evening pottage. Soon your father will wake and tend the fire. Soon the whole cycle will begin again. Another meal, another night, another desperate bid to make it until morning. But for now, in this moment, your daughter is warm in your arms, and the fire is crackling, and your family is alive. That's enough. That has to be enough. Your daughter falls asleep in your lap. Her breathing slows. Her body goes heavy. Her small hand, which had been clutching the front of your dress, relaxes and falls to her side. Sleep is the only true escape from winter, and children take it whenever they can. You don't move. Moving would wake her, and a sleeping child is a child who isn't hungry, isn't cold, isn't asking questions you can't answer. So you sit perfectly still, watching the fire, feeling the weight of her against your chest, letting your own eyes grow heavy. You don't sleep, not quite, but you drift. Your mind wanders to other winters. The one 3 years ago when the snow came early and stayed late, when your family ate nothing but thin gruel for 6 weeks and everyone's ribs showed by spring. The one 5 years ago when your baby brother died, just stopped breathing in the night, his little body too weak to fight off whatever sickness had taken hold. You were 14 when he died. You didn't understand then. You do now. Winter takes people. That's just what it does. You can fight as hard as you want, stack as much wood as your arms can carry, hoard every scrap of food like a dragon hoarding gold. And still, sometimes, winter wins. The fire crackles. Your daughter sighs. Outside the wind howls. A hand touches your shoulder. You startle awake, blinking. Your mother is standing beside you, her face soft in the firelight. She gestures toward the pot, then toward the storage corner. It takes you a moment to understand. Time to start on the evening meal. You ease your daughter off your lap, settling her onto the floor, beside the fire where she curls up and keeps sleeping. Children can sleep through anything when they're tired enough. Wars have probably been fought around sleeping children. The evening pottage will be different from the morning and noon versions. Not better, exactly, just different. Your mother has been saving a precious onion, one of the last from the autumn harvest, and tonight she's going to use it. The smell of onion cooking in rendered fat is one of the best smells in the world, second only to actual meat. You help her peel the papery skin. The onion is soft in places, starting to go bad. You cut away the spoiled sections and dice what remains. Maybe a quarter of the original size, but it's something. It's flavour. It's a break from the endless monotony of peas and barley. Into the pot it goes. Your mother has saved some of the pork fat from when you used the salted meat last week. She scrapes it into the pot and positions everything over the fire. The fat starts to sizzle. The onion starts to soften. The smell fills the cottage like a blessing. Your husband lifts his head. For the first time all afternoon he looks interested in something. His nostrils flare. His eyes track toward the pot. The smell of cooking onion can do what no amount of talking and worrying could accomplish. It can make a sick man feel alive. That's something anyway. A knock at the door. Again. This time you're the one who answers. The cold hits you as you crack the door open, and through the gap you see a face you recognise. It's Alice, the midwife. Alice is maybe 60 years old, which makes her ancient, which means she's survived more winters than anyone else in the village. She knows things, herbal remedies, prayers that might help, the difference between a cough that kills and a cough that just annoys. She's not here by accident. Word travels fast in a village this small. Someone told someone who told someone that your husband has been coughing, and Alice decided to pay a visit. Whether she was asked or just showed up on her own, you're not sure. It doesn't matter. You step aside and let her in. Alice moves straight toward the fire, straight toward your husband, without any of the social pleasantries that would normally accompany a visit. She pulls back his blanket, presses her ear against his chest, makes him breathe deep, which triggers another coughing fit that bends him double. She waits until the coughing stops, then straightens up. Not in his lungs yet, she announces, but it wants to be. Keep him warm, keep him fed, and make him drink this. From somewhere in the folds of her cloak she produces a small clay bottle, stoppered with wax. You take it, feeling the weight of it in your palm. What is it? Elderflower and honey, mostly. Some other things. Don't ask what. You don't ask what. Alice stays for a cup of ale and a few minutes by the fire. She tells you about old Marjorie on the far side of the village, who's been having stomach troubles, about the miller's youngest who fell off a ladder and broke his arm, about the rumours coming from the next village over, something about wolves getting bold enough to attack sheep in their pens. Wolves. You file that information away. Wolves usually stay in the forests, hunting deer and whatever else they can find. But when winter gets hard enough, when the deer are gone and the rabbits are hiding, wolves come looking for easier prey. Chickens, sheep, children, if the stories are true. You'll make sure your children stay inside after dark. Not that they go outside much anyway, but still, better safe than eaten. Alice finishes her ale and stands to leave. At the door she pauses, looks back at your husband, who's already drifting towards sleep again, looks at you. He's strong, she says, stronger than he looks. But watch him close. If the cough moves down, send for me. You nod. She's gone. The cottage feels smaller after she leaves. Darker somehow, even though the fire is burning just as bright. You look at the little clay bottle in your hand and wonder what's in it. What combination of herbs and prayers and folk knowledge Alice has packed into this simple container. Does it matter? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, you'll cross that bridge when you come to it. You set the bottle by your husband's sleeping spot and turn back to the cooking. The onion has caramelized now, brown and sweet at the edges. Your mother adds water from the bucket, then starts dropping in the evening's ration of peas and barley. The pot bubbles and steams. The smell shifts from pure onion to something more complex, savoury and rich. Your son appears at your elbow. He's been quiet all afternoon, working on his fishing net, watching and listening without comment. But now he has something to say. Can I go check the wood pile? You consider. It's getting dark. The temperature is dropping, but the wood pile is only 30 feet from the door, clearly visible from the cottage, and your son is old enough to handle a simple task like counting logs. Be quick, you tell him, and stay where I can see you. He pulls on his cloak and slips out the door. You watch through the window as he trudges through the snow toward the stacked wood. He's so small against the white expanse, so fragile. But he moves with purpose, with the confidence of a child who's been given a job and intends to do it right. He comes back 5 minutes later, cheeks red, nose running. 28 logs on the outside, he reports. More underneath, but I couldn't count those. 28. You do the math. At 3 logs a day, that's maybe 9 days, but you use more than 3 logs when it's this cold, and you haven't even started on the deep reserves yet. The wood your father stacked first back in October, the driest and best of the lot. You'll be fine. Probably. Good work, you tell your son. Warm up by the fire. He does, settling onto the floor next to his still sleeping sister. He doesn't wake her. He knows better. Instead, he just sits there, hands extended toward the flames, letting the heat seep back into his frozen fingers. Your father wakes from his doze. He sits up slowly, wincing at the stiffness in his joints, looking around the room with the slightly confused expression of someone who's not sure how long they've been asleep. His eyes find the pot. His nose finds the smell. Onion, he asks. Last one, your mother says. He nods slowly, processing this. The last onion. One more small marker on the road towards spring. One more item checked off the list of things you'll have to survive without until the ground thaws and new seeds can be planted. But tonight, there's onion. Tonight, the pottage will taste like something other than desperation. Your daughter wakes up hungry. She always wakes up hungry. You're pretty sure she went to bed hungry last night and will go to bed hungry again tonight, no matter how much pottage she eats. Growing children need more food than you can provide. That's just the mathematics of winter, but you do what you can. You give her a wooden spoon to lick while your mother finishes cooking. You tell her the pottage is almost ready. You distract her with questions about her rag doll. What's the doll's name? What did the doll do today? Is the doll warm enough by the fire? The doll's name is Emma. You freeze for a moment. Emma. The same name as the girl you pulled from the pond this morning. Your daughter must have overheard someone talking about it. Children pick up everything, even things you think they're too young to understand. Why Emma? You ask carefully. Because she was scared, your daughter says. But someone saved her. Your throat tightens. You pull your daughter close and hold her, breathing in the smoke and wool smell of her hair. Yes, you say. Someone saved her. The evening meal happens slowly. Everyone gathers around the fire. Bowls are filled. Ale is poured. The pottage is better than usual, the onion adding a sweetness that makes the whole thing feel almost like a real meal. Your husband eats more than he has in days, which could be a good sign. You choose to believe it's a good sign. Your daughter chatters while she eats, telling stories about her doll Emma, about the fire, about the funny sound the wind makes when it blows through the cracks in the walls. She's found her voice again after the long quiet afternoon. Children are resilient like that. Your son eats in silence, methodically working through his portion. He's thinking about something. You can tell by the furrow in his brow, the way his eyes stare at nothing. But you don't ask. He'll talk when he's ready. After dinner, your mother produces a surprise. From the cheese pot she pulls not a slice but an entire small round, maybe a 1/4 pound. She sets it in the centre of the group like an offering. It's your father's birthday. You'd forgotten. In the blur of winter days, you'd completely forgotten that today your father turns 43 years old, an achievement in itself. Most men don't make it this long. Your mother slices the cheese thin, giving everyone a piece. The taste is sharp and salty, so different from the pottage that it almost shocks your tongue. Your daughter makes a face. Your son eats his in 2 bites. Your husband savours his slowly, eyes closed, like he's trying to memorize the flavour. Your father just sits there, looking at his family in the firelight, a small smile on his weathered face. "Thank you," he says, and you understand that he's not just thanking anyone for the cheese, he's thanking you all for being here, for being alive, for making it through another year together, against all the odds, despite everything that winter and sickness and fate have thrown at you. You raise your cup of ale. Happy birthday, you say. The others echo it. Even your daughter, who doesn't quite understand what a birthday is but knows a celebration when she sees one. Happy birthday. The fire crackles. The wind howls. Somewhere outside, in the frozen darkness, wolves might be creeping closer to the village. But in here, in this moment, everything is exactly as it should be. Your family is together. Your bellies are full or close enough. Your home is warm or warm enough. And your father has made it to 43. That's worth celebrating. That's worth remembering. That's the kind of small victory that makes winter survivable. You finish your cheese, you finish your ale, and you settle in for the long evening ahead, surrounded by the people you love, grateful for every single one of them. The last light dies at the window. One moment there's a faint grey glow behind the oiled linen. The next moment, nothing. Just blackness pressing against the cloth like something alive trying to get in. Your mother reaches for the rushlights. They're stored in a clay jar by the wall, maybe 24 thin reeds dipped in animal fat and dried until they're stiff as bone. She pulls one out and carries it to the fire, touching the end to a glowing ember until it catches. The flame is small and orange, guttering in the draught, throwing barely enough light to see by. But it's something. In a world this dark, any light is something. She wedges the rushlight into a holder near the cooking area. The holder is just a forked stick jammed into the packed earth floor. Nothing fancy, but it keeps the rushlight upright while it burns. Fat drips down from the flame, pooling at the base, filling the air with a smell like cooking meat. One rushlight won't last the evening. They burn for maybe an hour each, sometimes less if the fat wasn't applied evenly. Your mother has already set another 2 aside, ready to be lit when the first one gutters out. Rushlights are cheap, just reeds from the marsh and fat from whatever animal you've slaughtered recently. But cheap is relative. Everything costs something in winter. The fire does most of the lighting work. Your father has built it up for the evening, adding the thicker logs that burn slow and steady, creating a core of heat that will last until someone wakes in the middle of the night to feed it again. The flames cast dancing shadows on the walls, making the cottage feel larger than it is, making the darkness seem less absolute. Everyone has settled into their evening positions. Your father claims the spot closest to the fire, his back against the wall, his bad leg stretched out toward the warmth. He says it aches worse in cold weather. Though whether that's true or just an excuse to hog the best seat, you've never been sure. Your mother sits beside him, spindle in hand, still working even now. The thread she's making will become cloth. The cloth will become garments. The garments will keep your family warm next winter, assuming everyone survives this one. The cycle never stops. Your husband is wrapped in blankets near the animal corner. The warmth from the livestock drifts over to him, mixing with the heat from the fire. You've given him the first dose of Alice's medicine, pouring a careful measure into a cup of ale. He drank it without complaint, though his face suggested it tasted like something scraped off a stable floor. Now he's drowsy, eyes half closed, the coughing temporarily suppressed. Your children are between you and the fire. Your son has abandoned his fishing net and is carving something from a scrap of wood. He won't tell you what it is. He wants it to be a surprise. The knife moves carefully, shaving off thin curls that drift to the floor like tiny feathers. Your daughter is fighting sleep. Her eyes keep closing, then snapping open when her head droops. She wants to stay awake. She wants to be part of whatever happens next. But her body has other plans, and those plans involve unconsciousness in the very near future. "Tell us a story," she says. The words are slurred with exhaustion, but the request is clear. A story. Something to fill the darkness. Something to make the long winter night feel shorter. You look at your mother. She was always the storyteller in your family. She has a voice that rises and falls like music, that makes even ordinary words feel special. And she has a memory full of tales, passed down from her mother, who got them from her mother, stretching back generations into a past no one can quite remember. Your mother sets down her spindle. The story she chooses is an old one. You've heard it 100 times, but hearing it again, in the firelight, with the wind howling outside and your family gathered close, it feels new. Once, she begins, there was a winter that lasted 7 years. Your daughter's eyes go wide. 7 years is forever when you're 4. The sun disappeared behind the clouds and didn't come back. The snow piled higher and higher until it covered the rooftops. The rivers froze solid, and the ice never melted, and people said that God had turned his back on the world. She pauses. The fire pops. Everyone leans in. In a village much like this one, there lived a girl named Maud. She was clever and brave, and she never complained, even when her fingers turned blue from the cold. even when her belly ached with hunger, even when her father fell sick and couldn't work the fields. You glance at your husband. His eyes are closed now, but you can tell from his breathing that he's still awake, still listening. Maud knew that her family would die if the winter didn't end. So she decided to find the sun. Your daughter gasps. Find the sun? Can you find the sun? Maud thought so, your mother says. She packed a bag with bread and cheese. She put on her warmest cloak, and she walked out into the snow. The story continues. Maud travels through forests where wolves circle just beyond the firelight. She crosses frozen rivers where the ice groans beneath her feet. She climbs mountains so tall that the clouds wrap around her like blankets. At each stage she meets someone who needs help, an old woman who's lost her way, a wounded deer caught in a trap, a child crying for its mother, and each time Maud stops to help, even though it costs her precious time, even though the cold is seeping deeper into her bones. Because that's what brave people do, your mother says. They help, even when it's hard, even when it would be easier not to. Finally, Maud reaches the cave where the sun is sleeping. Your mother's voice drops low. The rushlight flickers. The shadows on the walls seem to lean closer, listening. The sun was tired, your mother says, so tired from shining that it just wanted to rest. But Maud told it about her village, about the frozen fields and the starving animals and the people huddled together for warmth. She told it about her father, sick in bed, growing weaker every day. And what happened, your daughter asks. She's forgotten about being sleepy. She's sitting up straight, eyes locked on her grandmother's face. The sun woke up. Your mother smiles. The firelight catches the lines on her face, the grey in her hair, the 60 years of hard living written in every crease and wrinkle. It rose up from its bed of clouds and followed Maud back to her village, and when it shone down on the snow, everything started to melt. The ice cracked, the rivers flowed again, green shoots pushed up through the earth, and her father got better. He opened his eyes and saw the sunlight streaming through the window, and he smiled, and he said, "Spring is here." Your daughter exhales, a sound of pure satisfaction. The story is over. The lesson, such as it is, has been delivered. Be brave. Help others. Believe that winter will end, because it always does, even when it feels like it never will. Your mother picks up her spindle again. The fire crackles. The rushlight burns lower. Outside, the darkness is complete, pressing against your little cottage like the ocean pressing against a boat. Your son has finished his carving. He holds it up too, the firelight turning it this way and that. It's a bird, a small wooden bird with wings outstretched, frozen in the moment before flight. That's beautiful, you tell him. He shrugs, embarrassed by the praise, but you can see the pride in his eyes. He made something real and permanent and his. In a world where so much is taken from you, making something feels like rebellion. For you, he says, and presses the bird into your hand. The wood is smooth from the hours of carving. The wings are delicate, carved thin enough that the firelight almost shines through them. It must have taken him all afternoon. You close your fingers around it and pull him into a hug. "Thank you," you whisper. He squirms away after a moment because he's 7 and hugs are still slightly embarrassing. But he's smiling. You're smiling too. Your daughter has finally lost her battle with sleep. She's slumped against your side, mouth open, breathing slow and steady. You ease her down onto the floor, tucking your cloak around her for warmth. She doesn't stir. She's gone deep, into the kind of sleep that only exhausted children can achieve. The first rushlight is guttering. Your mother lights the second one from the dying flame, transferring the fire from one reed to another. The light never quite goes out. That's the trick. You pass it along, keep it moving, never let the darkness win completely. The evening settles into a comfortable rhythm. Your father tells a story about his grandfather, who once arm-wrestled a blacksmith and won. Your mother hums while she spins. Your son examines his carved bird from every angle, already planning his next project. Your husband sleeps, really sleeps, the medicine finally pulling him under. This is what winter evenings look like. Not exciting, not dramatic, just people sitting together in the warm circle of firelight, filling the hours until sleep comes, talking about nothing, remembering old times, planning for a future that might never arrive. From outside, faintly, you hear singing. It's coming from one of the neighbouring cottages. Martha's, maybe, or the blacksmith's. Someone is singing an old hymn, the kind they teach in church, the kind everyone knows by heart, even if they can't read the words. The sound drifts through the walls, thin and distant, but unmistakably human. Other people are alive out there. Other people are surviving this same night, fighting this same cold, keeping their own fires burning against the dark. You're not alone. You've never been alone, really. The village is a web, and everyone in it is connected, and when one strand trembles, the others feel it. The singing stops. Silence returns, broken only by the wind and the fire, and your father's soft snoring. He's fallen asleep too, chin on his chest, hands folded in his lap. 43 years old today, ancient by any standard, and still here, still fighting. Your mother catches your eye across the room. She looks tired. Of course she looks tired. She's been awake since before dawn, working constantly, feeding and clothing and caring for a family of 6+ livestock. She'll be up again in a few hours when the fire needs feeding. She'll be up at dawn tomorrow to start the whole cycle over again. But she smiles at you. A small smile. A private smile. The kind that passes between women who understand each other, who have fought the same battles, who know what it costs to keep a family alive through winter. You smile back, and something passes between you in that moment. A recognition, a gratitude, a promise that whatever happens, whoever makes it, and whoever doesn't, you did this together. You fought together. You survived together. The second rushlight burns down to a nub. Your mother lights the third. The light continues. The fire continues. The night continues. Your son yawns, a huge jaw-cracking yawn that seems to start at his toes and work its way up. He's been fighting sleep too, not wanting to miss anything, not wanting to be the first one to give in. Go to bed, you tell him gently. I'll wake you if anything exciting happens. He considers protesting, then thinks better of it. He shuffles over to the sleeping area, collapses onto the straw mattress, and is unconscious within 30 seconds. Just like that. The resilience of children never stops amazing you. Now it's just you and your mother. Your father is asleep. Your husband is asleep. Your children are asleep. The animals are asleep, even Edmund, his snores adding a bass note to the nighttime symphony. You should sleep too, but you don't. Not yet. Instead, you sit by the fire with your mother, watching the flames, holding the little wooden bird your son made, letting the warmth soak into your bones. Tomorrow there will be work. Tomorrow there will be worry. Tomorrow the food stores will be one day emptier, and the woodpile one day smaller, and your husband's cough might be better or might be worse. But right now, in this moment, everything is quiet. Everything is still. Everything is exactly as it should be. Your mother's spindle turns, the fire crackles, the rushlight flickers, and outside, beyond the walls, the stars are coming out. You can't see them through the oiled linen window, but you know they're there. The same stars that shone on your grandmother and her grandmother before that. The same stars that will shine on your daughter and her daughter after that. Winter is long. Winter is hard. Winter takes everything you have and demands more. But the stars are still there. The sun is still there, hiding behind the clouds, waiting to return. And you are still here. That counts for something. That counts for a lot. Your mother finally sets down her spindle. Her hands are cramped from hours of work, fingers curled into claws that she has to consciously straighten. She rubs them against her thighs, working the blood back into the joints, wincing at the stiffness. "Time for sleep," she says. You nod. The third rushlight has burned down to almost nothing, the flames sputtering in a pool of melted fat. You don't bother lighting a fourth. The fire provides enough light to navigate by, and besides, you've memorized every inch of this cottage. You could find your way to the sleeping area with your eyes closed. Your mother checks your husband before she lies down. She presses her palm against his forehead, feeling for fever, leans close to listen to his breathing, pulls his blankets tighter around his shoulders. The gestures are automatic, the same ones she's performed 1,000 times over the years. Checking on the sick, keeping watch over the vulnerable. "He's sleeping deep," she reports. "That's good." You help her to the sleeping area. She's stiff from sitting so long, and the cold floor doesn't help. Her knees pop as she lowers herself onto the straw mattress next to your father. He shifts in his sleep, making room for her without waking, his body accustomed to her shape after decades of sharing this same bed. The carved bird is still in your hand. You set it carefully on the wooden trunk by the wall, where you'll be able to find it in the morning. Such a small thing. Such a simple gift. But in the darkness of winter, small things matter more than they should. You check on your children. Your daughter is a warm lump under the blankets, her breathing slow and peaceful. Your son has rolled onto his stomach, one arm flung out, face pressed into the straw. They look so young when they sleep, so innocent. You brush the hair from your daughter's forehead and pull the covers up around your son's shoulders. Then you check on Edmund. He's fine, of course. Edmund is always fine. He opens one eye as you approach, grunts a greeting, then closes it again. The sheep are huddled together in their corner, wool pressed against wool. The chickens are silent on their roost. Everything is as it should be. The fire needs one more log before you can sleep. You select it carefully, choosing one that is dry enough to catch quickly, but green enough to burn slow. You position it just right, nudging the embers aside to make room, then settling the log into the hottest part of the fire pit. The bark catches almost immediately, flames licking along the edges. That should last until the waking hour. You've never questioned this, the way sleep works in winter. You go to bed when the darkness comes. You sleep for a few hours. Then you wake, sometime in the middle of the night, and you tend the fire and check on the children and maybe lie awake for a while, thinking or praying or just existing in the quiet dark. Then you sleep again until dawn. Your grandmother called it the first sleep and the second sleep, 2 halves of the night, with a wakeful hour in between. Everyone does it. your neighbours, your parents, everyone you've ever known. The idea of sleeping straight through from dusk to dawn is foreign, almost unimaginable. How would the fire survive? How would the cold be kept at bay? You settle onto the mattress beside your husband. He's warm, warmer than he should be, and for a moment your heart clenches with fear. Fever. The word rises unbidden in your mind. But when you touch his forehead, it's not burning, just pleasantly heated from the blankets and the nearby fire. You exhale slowly. Not fever, just sleep. The straw crunches as you adjust your position, finding the comfortable spots, avoiding the lumps where the hay has compacted into hard knots. Your daughter mumbles something and rolls toward you, seeking warmth even in her sleep. You gather her against your side and pull the blankets up to your chin. Cold air finds every gap. It creeps under the blankets where they don't quite meet. It seeps up from the floor beneath the mattress. It presses against your back where the straw has thinned. You curl tighter, pulling your knees toward your chest, trapping as much body heat as possible. This is how you fall asleep. Not gradually, not peacefully. More like falling off a cliff, one moment awake and the next moment gone, plunging into a darkness deeper than anything outside the cottage walls. Your body gives up on shivering. Your mind gives up on worrying. Everything just stops. The waking comes a few hours later. You don't know what pulls you out of sleep. Some internal clock, maybe. Some ancient instinct that knows the fire is dying and the cold is creeping closer. One moment you're dreaming about summer, about warm sun and green fields. The next moment you're awake, blinking in the darkness, your breath fogging in the air. The fire has burned down to embers. You can barely see them, just a faint orange glow in the pit, pulsing like a dying heartbeat. The temperature in the cottage has dropped noticeably. Your nose is cold. Your cheeks are cold. The tip of your exposed ear is painfully cold. You ease out of the blankets as carefully as you can. Your daughter protests, a small sound of displeasure, but doesn't wake. Your husband doesn't stir at all. You pad across the floor on bare feet, the packed earth biting at your soles, until you reach the fire pit. The wood is where you left it. You grab 2 logs from the pile, not bothering to select carefully this time. Speed matters more than strategy. You drop them onto the embers and crouch beside the pit, blowing gently, coaxing flame from ash. The first spark catches, then another, then a tentative tongue of flame, licking at the bark, finding the dry spots, growing stronger. You blow again, feeding the fire your breath, and the flames respond, climbing higher, spreading along the length of the logs. Light returns to the cottage. Not much, but enough. You can see the shapes of your sleeping family. You can see the animals in their corner. You can see your own hands outstretched toward the growing warmth. While you're up, you check on everyone. Your children haven't moved. Your parents are tangled together. Your mother's, head on your father's chest, his arm around her shoulders. They've been sleeping like that for 30 years. Some things don't change. Your husband is breathing easier. You stand over him for a long moment, listening. The rattling quality is still there, that wet undertone that makes your stomach clench. But it's no worse than before, maybe even a little better. Maybe Alice's medicine is working. Maybe his body is fighting back. You give him another dose just in case. The clay bottle is by his head. You pour a careful measure into his cup, add some water from the bucket to dilute it, and lift his head to help him drink. He swallows without fully waking, a reflex action, then settles back into sleep. Good, good. You're not ready to go back to bed yet. This is the wakeful hour, the time between the two sleeps, and your body knows it. Your mind is quiet but alert. Your muscles are relaxed but ready. It's a strange state, neither fully awake nor fully asleep, like floating in warm water. You sit by the fire and let your thoughts drift. Emma, the blacksmith's daughter, is probably sleeping peacefully in her own cottage right now, warm and safe, alive because you happen to be walking to the well at the right moment. You wonder if she's dreaming about the pond, about the cold water, about the moment when the ice gave way beneath her feet. Probably not. Children forget trauma faster than adults. The wolves Alice mentioned are out there somewhere, prowling the frozen forests searching for food. They're hungry too. Everything is hungry in winter. The deer they usually hunt have retreated to wherever deer go when the snow piles high. The rabbits are hidden in their burrows, so the wolves push closer to the villages, drawn by the smell of livestock, by the promise of easy prey. Your sheep are safe inside. Edmund is safe inside. But not everyone keeps their animals indoors. You think about the spring. It feels impossibly far away, a fantasy rather than a destination. But it will come. It always comes. The snow will melt. The ground will thaw. These seeds your father saved will go into the earth, and new life will push up toward a warmer sun. You'll plant peas first, then beans, then barley if the weather holds. Your daughter will run through the fields again, chasing butterflies and picking wild flowers. Your son will fish in the stream, bringing home his catch for the evening meal. Your husband will recover from his cough and return to full strength, working beside your father in the Lord's fields. Maybe, probably, you hope. The fire crackles, sending a shower of sparks up toward the smoke hole. You watch them rise and vanish, tiny points of light swallowed by the darkness above. Your mother stirs on her mattress. She doesn't wake, just shifts position, pulling the blankets tighter, burrowing deeper into the straw. Even in sleep, she's still fighting the cold. You wonder if she dreams about fire, about warmth, about summer days when the sun bakes the fields and the air shimmers with heat. You should go back to bed. The fire is burning strong now, the new logs fully caught, flames dancing high. It should last until morning, and the wakeful hour is passing. You can feel sleepiness creeping back into your limbs, a heaviness in your eyelids that grows harder to resist. But you allow yourself one more moment by the fire, just one more moment of quiet, one more moment of peace, one more moment where you're not a wife or a mother or a daughter, just a woman sitting alone with her thoughts, warmed by flames that push back the endless winter dark. The carved bird sits on the trunk across the room. You can just make out its shape in the firelight, wings outstretched, frozen in flight. Your son made that. Your 7-year-old son, with his patient hands and his quiet determination. He made something beautiful out of nothing, out of a scrap of wood and a few hours of careful work. That's what survival is, really. Making something out of nothing. Building warmth in a cold world. Finding moments of beauty in the darkness. Loving people who might be taken from you at any moment, knowing they might be taken, and loving them anyway. You stand slowly. Your joints protest, stiff from sitting on the cold floor. Your bare feet have gone numb. You shuffle back toward the sleeping area, stepping carefully to avoid waking anyone, and lower yourself onto the mattress. Your daughter immediately rolls toward you. Her small body presses against your side, seeking heat, seeking comfort, seeking the safety that only a mother can provide. You wrap your arm around her and pull her close. Your husband is breathing, steady, rhythmic, alive. The fire crackles, the wind whispers, and somewhere outside, impossibly far above the clouds, stars are wheeling through the sky in patterns that have repeated since the beginning of time. You close your eyes. Sleep comes easier this time, softer, like slipping into warm water. The second sleep is always gentler than the first. Your body knows the hardest part of the night is over. The fire is fed, the cold is held at bay. Everything that can be done has been done. Your daughter sighs in her sleep. Your husband murmurs something unintelligible, and you let go. Let go of the worry. Let go of the fear. Let go of all the things you can't control, all the dangers you can't prevent, all the uncertainties that crowd around the edges of your life like wolves around a flock. Just for now. Just for this moment. Just until the dawn comes and the whole cycle begins again. You sleep. The fire burns. The night continues. And somewhere in the depths of winter, in a tiny cottage in a forgotten village, a family breathes together in the darkness, alive and warm and safe. For now. That's enough. That's everything. The second sleep is different from the first. Deeper, warmer, more complete. Your body has done its work for the night, rising to tend the fire, checking on the ones you love. Now it can truly rest. Now it can let go completely. You dream, but the dreams are gentle. Fields in summer, green and gold stretching to the horizon. Your children running through tall grass, their laughter carrying on a warm breeze. Your husband walking beside you, healthy and strong, his hand finding yours, the sun on your face, the smell of growing things, the feeling that everything is exactly as it should be. It's not a complicated dream, not a story with a beginning and middle and end, just a feeling, a sensation, a memory of warmth that your sleeping mind wraps around itself like a blanket. The cottage creaks in the wind. Somewhere in your sleep you hear it. The familiar groan of wood settling, beams adjusting to the cold. It's been making that sound your whole life. Your grandmother heard it. Your mother heard it. Now you hear it. And someday your children will hear it too. There's comfort in that. In the continuity of small things. Your daughter shifts against you. Her breathing changes, slows, deepens into something beyond ordinary sleep. Children sleep so completely. Their bodies don't carry the same weight that adult bodies do. They haven't learned yet to hold on to worry even in their dreams. You pull her closer without waking. The fire has settled into a steady burn, not the dancing flames of earlier, but a solid glow, embers pulsing with stored heat. It doesn't need tending. It knows its job. It will last until morning. Hours pass. You're not aware of them passing. That's the gift of the second sleep. Time becomes meaningless. The night could be endless or over in a heartbeat. Your body doesn't care. Your mind doesn't track the movement of stars you can't see anyway. You just rest. Really rest. The kind of rest that reaches down into your bones, into the tired muscles of your back and shoulders, into the ache that lives permanently in your hands from years of work. Everything softens, everything releases, everything lets go. Edmund snores in his corner. It's a ridiculous sound, wet and rumbling, like rocks tumbling in a barrel. If you were awake, you might laugh. But you're not awake, not really, and the sound just becomes part of the texture of the night. Another familiar thing, another small comfort. The sheep breathe together, in and out, in and out, a rhythm older than memory. Animals has been sleeping in human dwellings since the beginning of time, keeping each other warm, keeping each other alive. There's something ancient about it, something right. Your mother murmurs in her sleep. A word, maybe a name. You can't quite make it out, and you're too deep in your own rest to try. She's probably dreaming too. Everyone dreams in the deep hours. Your father, your son. Even your husband, sick as he is probably wandering through some landscape only he can see. A whole family dreaming together in the dark. The wind dies down sometime before dawn. You don't notice it, consciously. But something in your sleeping body registers the change. The absence of that constant pressure against the walls, the silence where there used to be sound. The cottage seems to settle more firmly onto its foundation, hunkering down for the final hours of night. The cold is still there, of course. It never leaves in winter. It just waits, presses against the walls, seeps through the gaps, reminds you that warmth is something you have to fight for, something you have to earn and maintain and protect. But for now, you're winning. The fire burns, the bodies are huddled close, the animals add their heat to the mix, and somewhere in that crowded, smoky, hay-strewn cottage, the temperature stays just barely above the point where flesh starts to freeze. That's victory. That's survival. That's another night held at bay. The first light comes slowly. Not through the window, not at first. The oiled linen is too thick for that. But somewhere in the quality of the darkness, something shifts. The absolute black of midnight gives way to something slightly softer. A grey that's almost invisible. A hint that the world outside still exists. The rooster knows before anyone else. He's been waiting for this moment. Roosters always know. Some internal compass that tracks the turning of the earth, the slow march of the sun toward the horizon. He ruffles his feathers, adjusts his position on the roost, prepares, and then he crows. It's not a gentle sound. Roosters don't do gentle. It cuts through the cottage like a knife, sharp and insistent and absolutely certain that everyone needs to be awake right now. You don't wake. Not yet. Your body has learned to ignore the first crow. It's too early. The sun isn't up yet. There's no reason to leave the warmth of the blankets, so you let the sound wash over you. Acknowledge it somewhere in the back of your sleeping mind and sink deeper into rest. The rooster crows again, and again. He'll keep going until someone acknowledges him. That's just what roosters do. They demand attention. They refuse to be ignored. They announce each new day with the same desperate urgency, as if this dawn might be the last one, as if the sun might forget to rise without their help. Your father is the first to stir. You hear him more than see him. The rustle of straw, the creak of his bad leg as he shifts position, the soft groan that he probably doesn't even know he's making. He's been waking at dawn for 40 years. His body doesn't know how to do anything else. He doesn't get up yet. Too cold, too dark, too early. He just lies there, probably, staring at the smoke-stained thatch above his head, listening to the rooster, waiting for the courage to leave the warmth of the blankets. Your mother's hand finds his. You don't see this either, but you know it's happening. After 30 years, you know. They've woken together 10,000 times. Their morning ritual is as fixed as the sunrise itself, her hand in his. A squeeze, a silent acknowledgement that they've made it through another night. The light grows stronger, still grey, still dim, but unmistakably lighter than before. The shapes in the cottage start to separate from the darkness. The trunk by the wall, the pile of firewood, the hulking shadow of Edmund in his corner. Your husband coughs. It's the first sound he's made all night. A wet, rattling cough that brings him part way out of sleep. He turns his head, spits something into the rushes and settles back down. The medicine is working, or his body is fighting. Either way, he's still here, still breathing, still warm beside you. Your daughter stretches. A full body stretch, arms above her head, legs straightening, back arching. She makes a sound that's half yawn, half protest. She doesn't want to wake up. Nobody wants to wake up on a winter morning, but her body is young and resilient, and it doesn't need as much sleep as she'd like. She opens her eyes. You feel her eyelashes flutter against your arm. Feel her body tense as she registers the cold air on her face. Feel her burrow deeper into your side, trying to postpone the inevitable. "Mama," she whispers, "it's cold." "I know, baby. I know. You're awake now too. Not fully. Not completely. But enough to register the weight of your daughter against your side, the sound of your father slowly sitting up, the smell of last night's fire settling into cold ash. Another day. Another morning in the depths of winter. Another round of fighting the cold, feeding the fire, stretching the food, hoping the weather breaks before the supplies run out. But you don't move yet. You allow yourself this moment, this last moment of rest before the work begins again. Your daughter warm against you, your husband breathing beside you, your son still sleeping on your other side, mouth open, one arm flung across his face. Your family, alive, together. Outside, the world is waking up. You can hear it, even through the walls. The sound of doors opening in distant cottages, the creak of well buckets being lowered, the low murmur of voices as your neighbours emerge into the cold grey morning. Martha will be up, breaking ice from her water bucket, starting her fire, beginning the endless work of survival all over again. Old William will be checking on his sheep, the ones he keeps in the shed behind his cottage, counting them, making sure the wolves didn't get through in the night. Father Aldrich will be shuffling toward the church, preparing for morning prayers that only a handful of people will attend. His breath fogging in the cold air, his old bones aching with every step. The village is alive, despite everything, despite the cold and the hunger and the sickness and the wolves, despite the fact that half of them didn't exist 20 years ago, and half of them won't exist 20 years from now, despite the constant grinding pressure of survival. The village is alive, and so are you. Your father stands. You hear the pop of his knees, the shuffle of his feet on the cold floor. He moves toward the fire pit where the embers are still glowing and begins the first task of every winter morning, bringing the fire back to life. The rhythm begins again, the same rhythm that's carried your family through every winter you can remember. Fire first, then water, then food, then whatever work the day demands. One thing after another, each task leading to the next, until the darkness falls again, and you tumble back into the blankets and start counting the hours until dawn. It's not much of a life, some might say. It's hard and it's cold and it's short. Most of your children will die before they grow up. Most of your friends will be gone within a decade. Most of everything you love can be taken by a bad harvest, a harsh winter, a fever that burns through the village like fire through dry grass. But it's yours, this cottage, this family, this small patch of earth in a forgotten corner of England. It belongs to you in ways that the Lord's manor and the king's castle never can. You know every stone in the walls, every crack in the floor, every way the light falls through the window on a summer afternoon. And right now, in this moment, that's enough. Your daughter sits up. Her hair is wild, sticking up in all directions. Her face is creased from the straw. She looks at you with sleepy eyes, not quite ready to face the day, but knowing she has to anyway. "Is Papa better?" she asks. You look at your husband. He's still sleeping, but his breathing is easier than yesterday. The medicine is working. The worst might be behind you. "I think so," you tell her. "I think he's going to be okay." She nods, satisfied. Children accept good news so easily. They don't question it, don't look for reasons to doubt. They just believe and move on. Your son rolls over, his eyes open, find yours, and he smiles. That rare, precious smile that he saves for special occasions. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. The carved bird on the trunk says everything that needs to be said. The fire catches. Your father has coaxed it back to life, flame licking at fresh wood, warmth beginning to push back the morning cold. He moves to the water bucket, checks the ice, decides it can wait until later. Your mother is sitting up now, stretching, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. Another day, she says to no one in particular. Another day your father agrees, and you think, yes, another day, another chance, another 24 hours of fighting and working and hoping and surviving. The sun is coming. You can't see it yet, but you can feel it. The quality of the light is changing. The grey is warming. Somewhere beyond the clouds, beyond the endless winter sky, the sun is climbing toward the horizon. Spring is still months away, but it's coming. It's always coming. No winter lasts forever, no matter how harsh, no matter how long, no matter how many lives it claims. You'll make it. Not because you're special, not because you're stronger or smarter or luckier than anyone else, but because this is what your family has always done. Survived, endured, held on until the warmth returned. Your grandmother did it. Your mother is doing it. Someday, your daughter will do it too. And somewhere in that chain of survival, stretching back through generations and forward into futures you'll never see, there's meaning, there's purpose, there's hope. You sit up slowly. The cold air hits your face and you grimace, but you don't retreat back under the blankets. The day is waiting. Your children are hungry. The animals need tending. There's work to be done. But before you stand, before you throw yourself back into the endless cycle of survival, you allow yourself one more moment, one more breath, one more heartbeat in the quiet morning light. Your husband's hand finds yours. He's awake now, watching you with tired eyes, his face pale but his grip strong. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. "We're okay," his hand says. "We made it through the night. We're still here." You squeeze back. I know we are." And then you stand, and the day begins, and the story of your survival continues the way it always has. One moment at a time, one task at a time, one small victory at a time. The cottage fills with movement, children dressing, fire crackling, animals stirring. The sounds of a family waking up, coming back to life, preparing to face another day in the depths of winter. Outside, snow is falling again, soft and silent, covering the village in fresh white. It's beautiful in its way, cold and deadly and absolutely beautiful. But you don't have time to admire it. There's water to fetch, pottage to make, children to feed, a husband to nurse back to health. 100 small tasks that add up to survival. So you get to work. And somewhere in the rhythm of that work, in the endless cycle of fire and food and family, you find what everyone in this time has always found. Enough. Enough warmth. Enough food. Enough love. Enough to make it through. Enough to keep